If on election day you're not allowed to vote, many local voters may be confronted with that exact scenario, banned from the ballot box. And what's more, it may all be a mistake. It's what the 11 News defenders have discovered, and investigative reporter Mark Greenblatt says some election experts are worried this may be just the beginning of the problem. Mark?
Greg, Lucy, we ourselves have found case after case of people rejected from voting registration when they shouldn't have been. Were they just mistakes or something more? And are you one of them?
We're not going to see this economy turn around.
Economic policies that put Wall Street before Main Street.
With troubles at home and abroad, and for some, no end in sight.
I'm really excited.
Young Catherine Jor can't wait for this November.
So I've been looking forward to being able to vote for a very long time.
But for this high school senior,
And I do feel very strongly about who I'm voting for.
a funny thing happened on the way to the ballot box. Harris County officials told her
I wasn't old enough to register.
something she found shocking.
How old are you going to be on election day?
18.
How old are you now?
18.
And yet they still rejected you because you weren't old enough? In their eyes.
Yes.
Does that make any sense?
Nope.
So this daughter of two lawyers began her own campaign against the county registrar, calling them again
I argued with them, and then I asked them to please check it again.
and again
She said, stay on the line, and I seriously sat on the line for an hour, and no one, came back.
and again.
This is a democracy, so it should be easy for someone to be able to do what they're allowed to do.
So was all of this just a mistake? Well, the Republican voter registrar in Harris County says yes, but many Democrats and others charge it's part of a bigger trend to keep new voters off the rolls. Why? Research shows this year a new voter in Harris County is more likely to vote Democrat. Now, whichever side you believe, the 11 News defenders have discovered real problems blocking qualified Americans from registering to vote.
I'm shocked that this is going on.
Because for Frances Graham, voting is a serious matter.
My family's been in Texas since 1840. Many of them fought in the American Revolution.
So this year, she worked with Houston Votes, an organization where this former bookkeeper registered more than 130 new voters. And yet,
A lot of the people that I have registered are being rejected.
and what's worse,
Even though the application is very clear and they filled it out very legibly, and they've done a good job.
take brothers Amir, Naveed, and Omid Kamali, who registered separately, yet each got rejected by Harris County, claiming each didn't give proper ID or the last 4 digits of their social security numbers. But take a look at their applications, and it's not hard to find the so-called missing information.
So they do everything right,
They do everything right.
but they're still getting rejected.
They're still getting rejected.
And they weren't alone. Take potential voters like Ian Meyer, Kathy Sotelo, Donna Wiley, and more than 30 others, all rejected for mistakes they apparently didn't make, along with 1 out of 3 voters Graham registered.
It makes me very angry.
There is a very large problem in Harris County. People register to vote, and they're not allowed to be put on the rolls.
Elections expert Lori Van Hughes was appointed to a state advisory committee on voting.
Senator Duncan's office contacted us,
And she's testified for both Democratic and Republican-backed legislation. And she says in Harris County there are
High numbers of people being rejected due to inconsistent practices of reviewing applications.
How does she know? It turns out Van Hughes reviewed registration records from the tax assessor's office.
These aren't numbers you're just coming up with on your own study.
Right.
These are numbers based off of his information.
Right.
Her conclusion,
This is not 1 or 2 registrations. This is thousands of registrations.
but on top of it, she found the county was in no rush to tell would-be voters they were no good. Take Anna Martinez. She registered to vote in August. So when did she get her letter of rejection? State law gives 7 days to notify a citizen of a rejection, giving time to appeal. But the county didn't send Martinez a letter until 42 days later, in October, just 3 days before the final registration deadline itself. Van Hughes passed similar findings on to this woman.
Some people who tried, as I said, tried to do this in July, are just now hearing that their form has been rejected. and it's now too late.
She's Mary Finch, board member of the nonpartisan statewide League of Women Voters.
Putting roadblocks up in front of people is just not good.
As a result, Finch concludes that in Harris County,
The problem is competence or actual election fraud.
She almost didn't get a chance to vote.
Mark, that's a supposition on your part.
So we took our findings to Paul Bettencourt, the county tax collector and registrar.
Why don't you check for typos? Before you send that rejection letter, why don't you check first?
Mark, we do our best, okay?
So what about the many cases we found? He calls them mistakes.
Of course they're going to miss one. This is 1 out of 1.9 million registered voters.
No, it's not. We're talking about a number of cases here.
No.
And you keep saying it's 1.
Mark,
but
we're
1
talking...
plus 1 plus 1 plus plus...
Sure, it adds up to 25 out of 1.9.
So what about comments from the state office of the League of Women Voters that the problems are widespread?
My response is, we have a fantastic working relationship with the local League of Women Voters. They do not support anything that the State League of Women Voters says about this office.
But in the end, Bettencourt reinstated many of our disenfranchised voters, including Catherine Jor.
Catherine got a rejection letter. She doesn't understand why, and...
Mark, this is real simple. This is a mistake by a temporary employee that no longer works at the tax office. We'll apologize to her now.
Bettencourt says lately his office registers as many as 100,000 voter cards a week, and hence some of the errors we found. But as you saw, he also claimed the local office of the League of Women Voters disagrees with the state office of the League about voter registration problems in Harris County. Well, the local League's president says Bettencourt has got it wrong and called the state office extremely careful in their research. So what about all the voters who volunteer Francis Graham signed up and got rejected? Well, Harris County has done an about-face on many of them, so far adding 20 more of the 138 voters she signed up to the active voting rolls. Now, tomorrow at 10, our investigation heats up as Democrats and Republicans face off over what we found. I'm Mark Greenblatt, 11 News Defenders.